contempt charges if Meadows does ended up get voted toward contempt. Does he face jail time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because I feel like at this point, nobody's actually moving forward going toward any sort of consequence. What are the consequences? When do they take place if contempt charges are filed?
Yeah, he will likely, like Bannon, be indicted. Frustratingly, it'll be kicked out till probably summer for a trial. But if he's convicted, yeah, he could go to jail. But they've got a lot already, right? Just from what he's turned over, they have a lot about what he knew and what Donald Trump was doing. And they're also going to third-party providers, to cell phone companies, to internet companies to find out what else was going on.
What would be the value of not testifying after you're halfway there and you've submitted all this paperwork that shows everything that you've done?
They're guilty. And you may, this is what he turned over, right? And it's pretty disturbing as someone who sat in the chamber and to see those text message exchanges as 187 minutes went by when the president did nothing. What is he holding back? What privilege does he think he has to not turn over anything else? And of course, the central question is, what was Donald Trump doing or not doing at the time? And he certainly doesn't want to tell us that.
Congressman, I'm curious what you thought as you heard Liz Cheney read those texts from unnamed members of Congress, presumably most of them Republicans with a direct line to the White House and into Mark Meadows. It's, I'm sure, what you've heard privately from some of your Republican colleagues, that they didn't like what happened on January 6th, that they were scared on January 6th, reasonably so. But then they go out publicly on TV or in tweets or in their selected media outlets and say, no, the media is making too much of January 6th. This is an attack on Donald Trump. What did you think as you heard those words?
It's maddening. We were all scared. We were all in the same room. We were all getting the same instructions. We all were looking at our phones and seeing that there were pipe bombs laid around the buildings. And when we ran on the evacuation route, I saw the terror, in their faces that looked the same in the Democratic faces. But now we have this scene where publicly Fox News and these members, they stoked and incited this fire in the weeks leading up to January 6th. Privately, they're asking Meadows, to put it out. And then publicly, they're restoking it by suggesting that either Antifa was responsible for this and, oh, by the way, the election was still stolen.
What is the committee ultimately trying to prove here?
They're going to, after 300-plus interviews, you're going to see probably after the new year public hearings where they animate exactly what happened. Much like what we did in the impeachment, the second impeachment of Donald Trump, they have a lot more evidence than we had. We had very little. This was weeks after the insurrection. They have the benefit of hundreds of witnesses, documents, and they're going to show the public just how all this came together, and that I think but for one person, it wouldn't have happened.
And just to follow up on Mika's question, do you think they're trying to prove and will prove that President Trump or people around President Trump were specifically involved in ordering an attack on the U.S. Capitol? Not just that they were involved in having the rally and then the march, but that they wanted and intended and premeditated that attack on the Capitol.
There's certainly premeditation for what Donald Trump said weeks before, that this will be wild. He knew, based on what he was seeing and hearing...
Wild is not necessarily an attack on the Capitol.
Right, and fight like hell or you're not going to have a country anymore. Mo Brooks speaks before and says...
That would be.
Yeah, that would be violent. Mo Brooks and Rudy Giuliani, who called for trial by combat. Again, I think we're going to learn a lot more of what Donald Trump knew as far as, the violence that was going to be aimed at the Capitol. And most importantly is January 6, 2025, we're going to have to do this all over again. So, take what we've learned from this and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Because I do believe Donald Trump, if he's the nominee, is not going to, again, accept the outcome of an election.
Eddie.
So what do you think about the pace of the committee's work? I mean, the midterms are looming, and that your colleagues are thinking that they're going to take over the Congress. So what do you think about coming out of the new year? Right. Will the committee pick up the pace and grab our attention even more, given that June, July is on?
Yes, I think right now it's a submarine effort, and below the surface they're collecting, the documents, they're interviewing witnesses, and they're going to, curate the ones that I think best tell the story, so the country knows just exactly who's responsible and what we have to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's going to happen after the new year. And again, I think you're going to find that this is a party, the Republican Party, led by Donald Trump, that has become more comfortable with violence than voting when it relates to elections.
I want to go back, Congressman, to a point you made, because I think it's important about January 20th, 2025, because we all know now, because it's happening in broad daylight, about the kind of people who are being put in place or candidates that Donald Trump is supporting who wouldn't be like Brad Raffensperger, a Republican in the state of Georgia who said, no, I'm not going to go find those 11,000 votes for you. We counted the vote 3 times. You lost Georgia. People in Michigan, people in Arizona who stood up to pressure from Donald Trump. They may not be there in 2024 and 2025. What's happening on the state level that you think people ought to know?
They are setting the stage so that even if Democrats have massive turnout, they now have the processes in place that they can overturn the outcome in each state. Instead of holding up the integrity of people like Raffensperger and the Arizona Secretary of State, what they are saying is, let's just never put ourselves in a position again where we have to certify a Democratic victory.
It's David Perdue's entire campaign platform against Brian Kemp while he's running for governor in the state of Georgia.
Yeah. This month, we have been featuring the Atlantic magazine's special issue that looks into the current threats